Juneteenth is about celebrating Black freedom, power, resilience, and excellence. Welcome to Juneteenth, Unity in Our Community, a News 10 special.
Well, good evening, Mid-Michigan. I'm your host, Rochelle LeGrand, and welcome to our News 10 Juneteenth special, Unity in Our Community. Over the next half hour, we'll be showcasing people who here in Mid-Michigan are working to uplift and empower the Black community to preserve our history right here in our own backyard. But in order to understand and appreciate where we are, we first have to know where we've been. Juneteenth was established on June 19th in 1865 after more than 250,000 slaves in Galveston, Texas were told by Union soldiers that they were free under the Emancipation Proclamation Act. It was signed into the U.S. Constitution 2 years earlier, and once the slaves found out they were free, Juneteenth became known as a day of celebration to honor the legacy and hardships African Americans have had to endure in this country. But it wasn't until June of 2021 that Juneteenth became a federal holiday. Before that, Marilyn Rogers in Lansing worked tirelessly to bring the holiday to Mid-Michigan. She worked with the Progressive Empowerment Education Resource Service Group to spearhead the Lansing Juneteenth celebration. In 2005, Governor Jennifer Granholm signed legislation that designated the third Sunday in June as the Juneteenth National Day of Freedom. 18 years later, Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed an executive order recognizing Juneteenth as an official state holiday. Rogers says she became passionate about Juneteenth after being educated about its history.
It began here with a church member who lived in Texas, brought that Texas spirit of Juneteenth here, and he taught us what Juneteenth meant, especially to the people of Texas, what it should mean to us, even though we were in a northern state, that we should be celebrating freedom.
And thanks to Rogers' efforts, the Lansing Juneteenth Committee hosts its annual Juneteenth Festival and African American Parade to promote Black businesses and celebrate Black culture. To see details about this year's celebration, you can head to our website at WILX.com. Every day, hundreds of drivers travel on I-496 to get to their destination. But before the major highway existed, there used to be Black neighborhoods in its path. But to make way for the new interstate system in the 1950s, over 870 mostly Black-owned homes and businesses in Lansing were demolished. The city is now using a $1 million grant from the federal government to create parks, housing, and more local businesses to pay homage to the neighborhood that once stood. It'll extend over a half a mile from Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard to about Walnut Street.
It's a very positive thing for our city to recognize what was done in the 50s and be able to do some measure of remembering what happened.
Once a concrete plan for the I-496 cap is developed, the city will go to the federal government and get a build grant to help complete the project. Diversity, equity, and inclusion once emerged as a response to a world that denied equal rights. Now, as those values faced renewed resistance, News 10's Mars Anderson shows us 3 voices in Greater Lansing that reflect on why DEI still matters.
I'm Najee Maiman, and I am the founder of Black Lansing, as well as the owner of You Shine Events and Consulting. Black Lansing was built so that we can connect and engage from all the 4 corners of Lansing. It's literally a community built and founded to support us. Where we sit right now is literally where the Black Wall Street of Lansing at one time sat before they put roads, pretty much through it. It's a hard truth to live with, that something that is meant to help harmed a community. With DEI initiatives being under attack, I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. But the work is still continuing. But we cannot do that if we don't connect and engage with our cultural community that's here. Everybody has their role to play in the movement.
Hello, I'm Michael Singler. I'm the Vice President of BSA, which is Black Student Alliance at MSU. So the core of our organization is about uniting all Black student body so that way we can have like a good amount of advocacy for students because we are a marginalized community. DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. It simply is allowing for students to be represented and be accounted for. What DEI is not is a competition for other people to not have those things. Things are not as black and white as they seem, and people are allowed to express that and still thrive and be a human being. So it's mostly about coming together and figuring out the things that you can do in your personal life. I believe in new age, new problems, new solutions.
My name is Sarah Anthony, and I serve as state senator from Mid-Michigan, and I also chair the Appropriations Committee, so I help craft the state's annual budget. Our state, our communities, our country is growing in its diversity. I believe that it is important for each generation to do better, to welcome different experiences, different ideas and perspectives. Preserving DEI, whatever walk of life you're at, starts with an open heart and a willingness to just pause and put yourself in someone else's shoes. It's up to those of us who have been in the struggle a while to share what we know, to share our best practices and what worked for us, but also we have to make room for what the next struggle is going to look like. And we also have to make sure that we are guarding the changes that we fought for. At some point, we won't have to talk about diversity and equity and inclusion because we'll just be living it. We can't slow down. We can't let powerful entities and systems unravel our progress. Every generation has a responsibility to fight for what we believe is right, which is equal opportunity for everyone, but also righting the wrongs of the past. That's when I know we will have arrived, is when everyone feels like they belong, because they do actually belong.
And even as DEI has fallen from the spotlight, Black Americans hope for a world where everyone truly stands equal. Our community's faith in justice refuses to dim, but it starts with unity in our community. Coming up after the break, News 10's Amaya Kaznicki shows us how one local church has been giving back to the Black community for more than 5 decades. Stick with us as we speak with the pastor of Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church. Welcome back. Jollof Afro Caribbean Lounge is the newest Black-owned business to join Mid-Michigan. Owner and chef Oluwaseun Sapelo says his goal is to provide a space that bridges African and Caribbean culture and cuisine to Mid-Michigan. Sapelo has lived in Lansing for 20 years, but has long waited to create a space like this in downtown. He wants his restaurant to not only serve Afro-Caribbean cuisine, but also educate people on his rich culture and heritage.
The way they described Africa, you know, some people that have never been able to travel outside the country, they don't know how rich our culture is. So we wanted to bring that vibe that, you know, when you get a chance to go to Africa or to the Caribbean, it's actually a beautiful place and where we celebrate our culture, and that's why everything here, it's well detailed and to bring that vibe of home.
The restaurant is located on South Washington Square. A church on Lansing's South Side holds a lot of history. For decades, it's been not only a place of worship, but a place the Black community calls home. News 10's Amaya Kaznicki gives us an inside look of Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church.
This is a pretty lively church with an extensive history in the community. 52 years, almost 53 years of existence here.
Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church, a place many people in Greater Lansing call a second home.
People who are committed not only to God, but to each other.
Bishop Edward Rocket, the senior pastor at the church, says when you step inside, you feel welcome.
Our culture is one of a traditional Black church experience, call and response.
Whether that's through singing, clapping, or people stomping their feet.
Historically, you know, Black folks and coming specifically from the South church was all we had. It was the place where community was born.
A community that continues to grow, reaching all ages.
This is our education wing. Here on Sunday mornings, we have our classrooms for our youth. They get a lot of educational learning around scriptures, Bible verses, and everyday life.
Building and developing who Bishop Rocket says are the leaders of our future.
Part of what I think makes this place special is that we are really positioned here in this community to serve this community.
Well, this summer, Pilgrim Rest will be hosting Pilgrim Fest to give back to the community. During the event, the church will be giving away free clothes, provide health screenings, plus food from local vendors. To learn more about Pilgrim Rest, you can go to the church's Facebook page. Gun violence is one of the leading causes of death for children in the United States, according to the National Center for Health Statistics. For nearly a decade, the Mikey 23 Foundation in Lansing has been working to end this violent epidemic within our community by encouraging kids to learn a skilled trade rather than picking up a gun. The foundation hosts an essay contest to give students the opportunity to write about their own experiences with gun violence and propose ways to prevent it. Zachary Barker was a student at Okemos High School in 2023 when a swatting call forced shelters in place. Days later, he was on the campus of Michigan State University when a gunman opened fire, killing 3 students and critically injuring 5 others.
The theater group was on lockdown at the Wharton Center on campus. Instantly, I was reliving my trauma again. Not knowing if you're going to live or die within the next few minutes was horrifying.
Barker won the essay contest last year. He says writing about what he experienced on paper was traumatic, but also healing. He hopes that by sharing his story, he can help people heal. One Mid-Michigan woman is using her story of surviving domestic violence to help other women do the same and educate others on how to stop the cycle of violence. It's all coming up next.
In December of 2007, he held me in a room for over 3+ hours, and he told me he was going to murder me. He called his family, called his parents to let them know that he was planning to murder me that night, and he strangled me.
Those words are from Tanisha Ashakur, who detailed her experience with domestic violence. However, she took her painful past and turned it into purpose by helping others who were in the same shoes as her. She founded Voices of Color, a nonprofit that advocates for those who've lost their voice due to intimate, partner, and domestic violence. Voices of Color advocates for the awareness and prevention of domestic violence and actively works to restore self-empowerment for victims and survivors. But not only does Ashakur work with victims, she also works with those who commit domestic violence and teaches them to unlearn their patterns of abuse. If you know someone who's a victim of domestic violence, you can contact Voices of Color at the information listed below. A study done by Consumers Report published that some protective hairstyles aren't as safe as we thought they were. I spoke to a local dermatologist as it has a few solutions to help Black people better protect their mane. Bobs, box braids, and bohemian styles. Hairstyles that frequently use one thing in common: synthetic braiding hair. But unfortunately, the common practice used by many Black people is linked to detrimental health issues. A study by Consumers Report found dangerous chemicals such as carcinogens and lead detected in 100% of braiding hair tested.
I mean, my initial thoughts were, here we go again, because we did recently, within the last few years, read studies about a possible connection between cancer and relaxer use.
Dermatologist Dr. Lauren Seals says the concerns of this study aren't anything new or surprising, but also tells people that there's no reason to fear and that these effects can be manageable.
The greatest answer is to do everything in moderation. We get exposed to a lot of the things that are in these braiding hair products that were tested. We get exposed to them all the time. If you have a gas stove, you're exposed to some of the things that were found. If you go get your nails done and you get acrylic nails, you're exposed to some of the things that were in the study.
Dr. Seal also says the responsibility does need to be placed on the manufacturers.
I think it actually kind of puts the onus back on Black women to a certain extent, and it's not really fair, because what we're saying is, oh, you need to avoid these products. Well, why are they making products that could do this to us to begin with?
She does remind consumers that the power is actually in their hands.
We need to also talk with these companies, some of whom gave like very reasonable responses, I believe, to the study, or only buy the products that we know are going to limit our risk as much as possible, because we, as the consumer, have buying power. We can determine what does and does not make it off the shelf.
Something her medical assistant Aria does when she gets her hair styled in braids.
Sometimes I'll get like cool designs braided into my hair, which for me is cool because it like kind of ties back into our ancestral ties, and I'm always looking for more, things to be really proud about my Blackness. It's something that I'm not afraid of, and I'm super proud of.
Aria recalls rashes, bumps, and pus that would form when she used to get her hair done, but the style felt like more than just a new hairdo. To manage these effects, she's turned to using 100% human braiding hair to alleviate harmful symptoms, which is on the list of Dr. Seal's recommendations.
And usually my recommendation is that patients treat the hair before it's installed with apple cider vinegar or conditioner, just to remove some of that alkaline base.
She also believes the FDA should step in to regulate more cosmetic products.
This doesn't just, impact, just us ourselves, the people who get the braiding hair applied. It's the people who do the braids. So you think about all the stylists who get exposed to these things. You think about their children who are being exposed to these things if people are braiding out of their home. We want to make sure it's not just us, the consumer, but also the people who service us and their families and their communities. The people who are just trying to make their hair, make themselves look good, feel good, should have to bear the burden of then also worrying that doing those things is going to harm them in the long run.
After the break, I sit down with the first Black Lieutenant Governor of Michigan, and he expresses what Juneteenth means to him. This evening, we told you about Juneteenth trailblazers who started a race to freedom, but are passing the baton for others to finish. One man who has always been focused on creating systems and solutions that work for the most vulnerable people in our society is joining us now. We have Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist. How are you?
I'm doing great. Good to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you again. Thanks for joining us here in studio. But I wanted to ask you, as we approach Juneteenth, I know it is your daughter's birthday.
Yes.
But tell us why this day is so significant to you personally.
I mean, first of all, Juneteenth is literally about freedom, but what it's about is about people understanding that they have freedom. I'm a believer that people are powerful. You just have to remind them they have power and let them know how to use it. I also think the people are free in this country. That's what the law says, but we have to make sure that people understand that and can experience it. And Juneteenth is the clearest illustration of that we have in our history. I'm really glad that we now celebrate it formally, that all of us, that the entire country is now welcomed into this Black experience of celebrating Juneteenth, and I think that's a good thing. And frankly, at this moment in time, it's something that we need to remember, that we all have freedom, that we all have power, and we have to protect and use both.
That's right. I think sometimes it's that reminder that we need.
That's right.
But why is it more significant now, especially as we see those rollbacks on DEI and rights and those freedoms? It is that we fought for.
I mean, first of all, what I think about in this moment where there have been just direct assaults on the success of women, on the success of Black people in this country, on the success of immigrants, America should be about people aspiring towards success, aspiring toward being their best. And the programs that have been set up to support people's success have been about making sure those pathways are clear and present and accessible to everyone.
Now, I know right now you're preparing to leave office, but are there any accomplishments that you are incredibly proud of when you look back at the time that you've been there?
I mean, I'm really proud of the work that Governor Whitmer and I have been able to do together. I mean, there are a lot of more people in Michigan who are positioned to be successful now. People have more money in their pockets, whether it's the things we've done to give a tax break to working families, to our working families tax credit, about 750,000 households in Michigan. Half the kids in the state of Michigan got an average of $3,500 back on their taxes starting last year, and it's happening now every year. All of our retirees now have more money in their pockets, and at a time when stuff is still so expensive, know that you get your full retirement and don't have taxes taken out of it the way that Republicans did to us 15 years ago. That really is something important and special. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of also just making sure that more people have access to affordable housing now, because we've built more homes in the last 3 years than we had in the last several decades in the state of Michigan, because I was able to unlock some resources to do that and make it possible. So putting money in people's pockets, make sure people have a safe and stable and affordable place to live. I'm proud of that foundation that I've helped to lay here, and I think it's going to be important going forward. That's right. You've laid an incredible foundation with your time in office. And now that we know so much about you from the past, we've learned about the present, I want to ask you more about the future. The special is called Unity in the Community. So in what ways do you want to see not only Lansing, but all of Michigan lead with unity? Look, we all are connected. In order for the state of Michigan to be as successful as it possibly can be, all of our communities and all of our people have to realize their full potential. They all require investment and attention. And so when I think of unity, being unified means that we understand, welcome, and we walk forward together with everyone, one another. And so I think in this Juneteenth season for 2025, we should remember that we all have a role to play in the future, and that we should reject any visions of the future that are so small that they don't include everybody. They don't include everyone based on their race, ethnicity, or based on their sexual orientation or gender expression, or based on their age, or based on any other things that people have discriminated folks against historically. So we have an opportunity to walk forward in the kind of unity that I think makes sure that we can all, do our best going forward. And frankly, that's what I take inspiration from every day. That's right, walking forward in unity. Thank you so much for joining us in studio today. Thank you. Happy Juneteenth. And thank you for joining us this evening, everybody. Have a safe and happy holiday. Happy Juneteenth.